This video is going to be an off-season film study of Jameson Williams slash 2024 projection based upon the film, based upon what we have from last year, and some of the information, quotes, and media reports coming out of mandatory minicamp last week. One of the things that I thought I heard and read multiple times was continuity and how Dan Campbell said they felt like they were operating at a master's level class instead of like 100 level based upon the fact that Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were both returning. I hope for Jameson Williams' sake that that is true for minicamp, training camp, and then the regular season last year, because how he performed in the last 6 games of the season, he was inactive for Week 18 against the Vikings, gave you a real glimpse, a solid glimpse, if you ask me, of what he's capable of for this offense and the element that he brings that really no one else does. As an aside, I enjoy the off-season film studies because I get to take a different angle, a different approach than perhaps during the regular season when I have to be specific to a certain game or maybe a pattern that has developed over the last 3 or 4 games. Here, I get to categorize the plays, organize them in a way, and present you with information, perhaps give you a different approach or a different slant or perspective yourself. Clearly, Jameson Williams got tremendous talent, big playability, the burst and the speed, well documented, it's obvious. He's always had a knack for big plays. Now, his NFL career obviously didn't start the way him and Lions fans would have wanted him to. I thought it took shape in the 2023 season, basically after the loss to the Ravens in Week 7, or at least started to be revealed in terms of what he was capable of consistently. Now, don't get me wrong. He did score a touchdown the week before the Ravens game, down on the road at Tampa Bay in Week 6. Long bomb from Jared Goff on a 3rd down, nonetheless. But he really became a weapon. I thought the consistency showed more so after that 0 for 6 game against the Ravens in Week 7. He had the touchdown catch at home in the come from behind win over the Bears in Week 11, 4 days before Thanksgiving. Then you had the 19-yard touchdown run in the road win against the Saints, the one that put Detroit up, I think, by 12 or 13 points early in the 4th quarter. Also had a touchdown called back on the road against the Chargers on a little bubble screen to the left. Played really well in Minnesota in Week 16. He obviously had the 63-yard strike down the middle of the field against the Cowboys on the road in Week 17. I won't show that one. I avoid all film from the Cowboys game at this point. The playoffs had 2 catches in each game. He did score a pair of touchdowns against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Brilliant score, brilliant play call and scheme on the reverse early in the game. Then the 4th quarter touchdown catch in the back of the end zone gets Detroit within 34-31. I think it's going to be fun to watch the usage of Williams. I don't think any of us know. He only got 42 targets last year while playing in 12 games. I don't think any of us realize what it could look like if he gets 80, 90, or even 100 targets. Do I think he gets 100 targets? No, not necessarily. But the 42 targets in 12 games last year, it has to be understood within the context of he missed time for a suspension. One of those ones that every sport is handing out now for in between, providing us gambling promotion and commercials, which is incredibly hypocritical, but I shouldn't be surprised with the NFL. Anyway, I expect more opportunities for him simply because Reynolds is gone. Second off, he'll get more opportunities because of the consistency that he's showing. And he's completely healthy now and integrated in terms of a complete offseason. I think the only barrier to high-level production for him at this point is opportunities. When you base it on the film, not the stats, and fans of other teams will base it on the stats. But when you base it on the film, he makes plays when he's given chances. Now, is it high enough percentage of the time for you in terms of the touches slash targets, turning into big plays? That's up to you as the viewer or the fan here to decide. But I think if you extrapolate how well he played in the final 6 games, while Reynolds was still there, mind you, Reynolds was still there 4 or 5 targets a game. Reynolds had 14 throws to him or directed at him in the playoffs. Nonetheless, Williams was able to have an impact and I think show the talent that caused Detroit to draft him in the 1st round, despite his ACL injury suffered at Alabama. Williams only had 4 touches or 4 opportunities to get to football, I should say, against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, nonetheless produced a pair of touchdowns. I think that's exactly what the Lions need. The big playability. When you add that to the efficiency and the physicality of the Ben Johnson offense, be it the run game or the play action pass, or some of the designed boundary side attack concepts that Ben Johnson, I think, relies on. Lions are extremely efficient on offense, and when they don't turn the football over, they're going to win a lot of games. Williams is an element unto himself, if you ask me. Now, he did average 14.6 or 14.8 yards per catch, and that was behind Josh Reynolds at 15.2. But Reynolds' number there, being a team high, it came on a lot of dig routes and deep slants, whatever people want to call them. People have different phrases for them. Goff and him had a ton of completions in what I would call zone 2 and zone 4. Not the middle of the field, but between the top of the numbers and the hash. Also some 3-step fades in there. Williams has film converting the in-breaking routes, one of which you see here, the touchdown on the 4th and goal, with about a minute left in their loss at San Francisco. But it's his ability to score on really any given touch, if you ask me, that separates him from Reynolds and Khalif Raymond. Now, Khalif Raymond is interesting to me to see him possibly get more opportunities because he did average 14 yards per catch as well, third on the team, and then 10 yards per carry. The usage for Williams that I'm most interested in is the shorter routes. And I know that that is paradoxical or backwards from what most people would say. He's a deep threat. He's got so much speed. Coach, don't you want to get him the ball downfield? Yes, absolutely. I'll talk about that a little bit. But what interests me the most is these times when he's made people miss. And some of it is in somewhat tight space. Not this one necessarily. This one's called back, obviously, in the road win, Week 10 against the Chargers. We know about the downfield threat, the downfield playmaking ability. He had it at Alabama. This stuff was kind of surprising for me in 2023. I say that because I'm obviously aware of how athletic Jameson Williams is, but the short area jukes was not something I thought of when the Lions began to utilize him more last season. Did it surprise you at all? I shouldn't say surprise. Did it get your attention at all? Like, hey, wait a minute, this is a downfield threat, playmaker on long passes, but also we can get him the ball on shorter concepts and he can make people miss. I think that ability right there, what I'm repeating or cycling through here a couple of times, highlights the difference between him getting 80 to 90 targets or more, somewhere in that area, versus the 42 he got in 2023, while Josh Reynolds got 64. So 106 between the two of them. I'm not saying that just flat give 106 targets to Jameson Williams. You have to keep in mind also that Laporta and St. Brown combined for 284 targets. St. Brown, of course, got 164 just himself. But I could see Williams getting upwards of 90, 95 targets with 100, 105 total touches, including reverses or sweeps. Number one, tell me what you think of that idea. Number two, feel free to let me know if you don't share my optimism, excitement, or focus on the shorter route concepts. Because Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown can do those things. Sam Laporta's routes are going to be intermediate, sometimes shorter stuff into the boundary. You don't want to, quote, waste Jameson Williams there. I understand if that's your perspective. My point is he makes people miss. I just cycled through, 3 instances of it, all of them to the left, and all of them in tight space along the left sideline, which is somewhat irregular or ironic. But my point in showing you those is they caught my eye and almost make me wonder if the Lions don't see some of this stuff in practice, him making people miss, and started to integrate him during the season more so on those concepts than just trying to force the ball to him deep down the field. Now, there were some missed opportunities on deeper throws, deeper concepts in 2023 where either Goff misplaced the ball or maybe some would say Jameson Williams ran the wrong route. I kind of reject that notion there, to be honest with you, based on my understanding and what I've seen. But nonetheless, there were missed opportunities last year. Now, this one was maybe on the wrong side as well. It ends up being a touchdown catch, hugely important throw and conversion, if you ask me, because the run game was non-existent that day. The Bucs defense was quite stout, and this was a big play on a third down, I believe in the third quarter. Kind of goes against the notion that Goff can't throw the ball deep consistently. Anyway, Williams clearly brings this element. and they have to attack here at times. It could be strategic. It could be game plan oriented, obviously. I think Williams has the athletic ability to obviously get behind the defense multiple times per game. It took until about week 11, actually precisely week 11, for him to exceed 40 snaps in one game. And then it seemed to average about 45 snaps a game thereafter. I do want to point out another big play that he's involved in, not from a playmaking standpoint. This is his hustle and determination to get involved in these blocks on the Montgomery 75-yard touchdown run on the road against the Chargers after the bye. A spectacular win, obviously. One that I think this play says a lot about Jameson Williams, because to this point, it's not like he had a tremendous impact on the offense. He had one touchdown, the one that I showed you against the Bucs, a nice catch against the Raiders that I will refer to here for a moment. We're still in the time frame of his 2023 season where he hasn't produced a ton, and we all heard so many of the things that were said about him, primarily from fans of other teams that just don't want Jameson Williams to succeed as much as we all do. The thing that strikes me about that blocking effort against the Chargers is, again, that there wasn't tremendous statistical impact up to that point. I think the Ravens game and the lack of success there was a turning point. Whether it was intentional from a coaching standpoint in terms of how he was implemented, or whether they just recognized some of the missed opportunities that were in the film. Look, I think Rock Ya-Sin gets away with a pass interference. I think it's this deep throw here. Show you the end zone angle. I think he makes contact before the ball arrives. Clearly could have been called, but it's late in the game. I understand it. Nonetheless, you're Jameson Williams. You're 0 for 6 on targets. It drew a lot of attention, again, from people that were generally not considered Lions fans. The cool thing for me is how Jameson Williams handled it. Seemed to be with class, to my knowledge, and no disrespect towards Goff was ever a part of what he talked about, even on plays where maybe Goff misfired or misplaced the ball downfield. I thought the next week, the next game that is, against the Raiders, game that really wasn't as close as the 26-14 score, Williams had this moment that was very revealing. It's an empty set. This is a Josh Reynolds route, if you ask me. Now, look, they actually almost run into each other. This is late in the second quarter, I believe. Reynolds and Williams are almost going to run into each other on these dual kind of in cuts as you clear the second level. I found this one interesting because he's about to break away on it, meaning there's one near missed tackle and it's over, meaning Jameson Williams is gone. And that element isn't there for anyone else from a wide receiver position, if you ask me. Josh Reynolds is certainly not that guy. St. Brown has had big plays, but I don't think he brings the speed flavor that nobody really brings the speed flavor that Jameson Williams does. In this game, the Lions rolled up, I think, like 440 yards of offensive production, turned the ball over 3 times, kind of allowed the Raiders to hang around in a game that really wasn't that competitive. This one and others against off coverage, zone, if you will, I think gives you an opportunity to understand his willingness to go over the middle. Those routes that, again, Reynolds specialized in. He takes a huge hit on this one in Week 16 against the Vikings. Over the middle on a play-action concept, we'll run it back a couple of times. I kind of like running things back multiple times so you guys can see the concept, and maybe I can notice something again on rewatch, but it's a play-action concept. I love this because Goff is clearly looking to the downside of our screen initially, and he just gets through these reads so quickly. I think it encourages or influences guys to run their routes on the backside or the third option. Those players, I think it encourages them to continue on their route as if they were the first read because Goff gets through them so quickly. Do other NFL quarterbacks get through their reads quickly? Of course. I think Goff is quicker than most. I think he's on the upper end of the spectrum in terms of being able to get through the reads. This one's left to right, and he sticks it behind or between the second-level defenders. Let me give you the end zone angle one time so you can see it. Between the second-level defenders and then in front of the safety, Williams will secure the football and takes a huge shot from a linebacker in the process. Goff was giving Gibbs some direction on where to check first in one of these A-gaps in case the nose tackle stunted and linebacker blitzed. how quickly Goff gets through this, and the shot that Williams takes, I think says a lot about him and his toughness. Maybe a little underrated at this point. Somewhat similar play in the NFC divisional round against the Bucs. Once again, another team that at that point was supposed to take out the Lions. The Ravens content creator, I get plenty of messages from people, random messages. Coach, why are you talking about the Lions? They're going to get beat by the Bucs this week, week 6. Coach, why are you talking about the Lions? We're going to tear them up this week, week 7. And of course, the Ravens did get the win there. Coach, why are you talking about the Lions? They're not going to win against the Vikings. The Vikings defense has a hold on Jared Goff. Both times. Coach, the Lions are going out in the wild card round against the Rams. It was every week, guys. It was literally every week. I tried not to respond to it. I was usually very calm and respectful towards those people. But nonetheless, Williams takes advantage of the space, the off-coverage nature. It's zone. That's kind of a cover 3 look. Bends the in cut in behind the linebacker level. I think another example of a route that Reynolds runs often, even though Reynolds is in the slot here. Bringing this route in towards the middle of the field, what I would call zone 2. Give the end zone angle so you can see Goff work through the progression real quick. This time it's right to left and not left to right. That quick read ability, like I said, I want to expand on it or explain it one more time. I think sometimes you get guys that are the third or fourth option on a particular play. Not the third or fourth option in terms of number of targets, but on the progression. And if you play with a quarterback like Jared Goff, you should run as the third or fourth receiver or option in the progression as if you're the first, because Goff will get there quick. And sometimes he'll see something in the coverage that'll force him to probably just skip past the first or second read. And that might be why he looks so quick on the reads post-snap, is because he's already done his homework pre-snap and understands that certain routes are just not going to be there. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. I thought Williams really could have had a bigger impact against the Bucs. I mean the playoff game, that is. Here he is down at the bottom side of the screen against Zion McCollum, another super athlete. It's 21 personnel. You got a play action fake to the running back. Outside linebacker ends up taking the flats. Running back releases out into the flats. Outside linebacker peels. I think it ends up basically looking like a 2 deep, 4 under. I'll pause it and let you see it. Now, the linebacker taking the running back is certainly not at the depth of these 3 players here. But I think if you were to draw this up on a whiteboard, you're drawing up 4 deep, 2 under, and that's kind of the reason why McCollum is affording so much space to Jameson Williams. Look, his speed has something to do with it as well. But McCollum knows in this coverage, he is a safety, basically. He's the last line of the defense. If you accept that it's a 2 deep, 4 under coverage, you may not, and that's fine. But this is the design of it. It's designed to give up space from a McCollum standpoint. If there was a flat defender at some depth, then perhaps Goff has less ease making this throw. So what I'm talking about is this outside linebacker again. If he was kind of in a direct line with these guys, perhaps somewhere in that area there, Goff does not have as clean of a window to throw. This is a situation, a example, if you ask me, of Ben Johnson making the perfect call for the coverage that shows up, and Jared Goff understanding it. Williams smoothly baseball turns towards the sideline. I think it's a 22, 24-yard gain, something like that. He's got great feet. It's nice to see him totally healthy in terms of the ACL. End zone angle. Another one. This is against the Broncos, Week 15. He's going to be down here. Another one that's later in the progression where Goff is kind of handling something complex, or complex to us as laymen, not to those guys. The Broncos are using motion to show man. And I don't think Jameson Williams is trying to be disrespectful towards a legend like Justin Simmons. They're showing man because you've got St. Brown in the motion across, and this DB is motioning with him. But they're really not playing man. They're playing their patented quarter, half, where you have a half field defender and then 1/4 and potentially 1/4 here. And these are your underneath droppers. The only thing is, one of the inside linebackers didn't get the memo in terms of bringing his coverage back away from the motion. I do think it's interesting that St. Brown's motion is going towards Williams, and then Williams's route is going back in the opposite direction. I think he ends up exactly where he's supposed to be. This is the inside linebacker that I'm talking about. I think he should be uh, with his feet between the left hash and the middle of the field, somewhere in that area there. I do want to address something that I mentioned earlier. The whole topic or conversation point about Jameson Williams didn't get more targets early in the season, or didn't have as much impact because his route, he wasn't where he was supposed to be. I disagree with that notion. I reject that notion. There's some times where Goff's throw was off target. There are. There's some other times where his route has a little bit less timing earlier in the season. Perhaps. I don't think it happened with the propensity or consistency that people mentioned it as. I reject all that. Anyway, he runs into the open space. This is the inside linebacker that I'm talking about. He's drifting to the same side as the DB that went with St. Brown, and I think he should be more so between zone 4 and 5, basically in a direct line where that ball ends up there. Jameson Williams takes advantage of it. These were just plays to illustrate his impact against off coverage / zone, and let you know that I think Jameson Williams, more often than not, was exactly where he was supposed to be. Couple of examples of him against man. This is actually one of my favorite routes that I saw during the whole season, but it's incomplete pass. You want someone as the backside X that can win one-on-one matchups. Well, you've got the athletic ability there with Jameson Williams. The run threat that Ben Johnson's offense offers is going to force defenses to focus a lot of attention on that. I just love the ability to stop on a dime and just leave this guy, or let this guy leave you. It ends up being incomplete. We'd certainly like to see that one be completed, but I think it illustrates the athletic ability, number one. Number two, some of the situations that Ben Johnson's going to create via formation, forcing the defense to be in their base defensive structure, 3-4, and then roll the strong safety up, leaving the entire left side of the field available for Jameson Williams in a one-on-one situation. Some pressure obviously impacted the throw there by Jared Goff. This one is not a great job initially off the line of scrimmage. I've actually addressed this in video form once or twice. He's down here against Surtain, but I think it's illustrative of the talent level that Jameson Williams has. Basically, he's got a bigger margin for error than many other people do, because he doesn't win this route from the line of scrimmage till about right now. But as soon as Patrick Surtain stops holding, which he is, for a moment, Jameson Williams is able to get separation. Now, all of the things that happened prior to me pausing it there impacted the delayed nature of him getting down the field. So is Goff's throw overthrown? Probably not. It's probably thrown exactly where they wanted Jameson Williams to be, but Patrick Surtain is able to hold him up, whether it's legal, illegal, whatever. I don't care. I'm a defensive guy. I actually appreciate getting hands on defensive players. My point is, nothing from the line of scrimmage up to about right there was a win for Jameson Williams. He's still able to turn it into a dangerous opportunity down the field. Doesn't get converted, but it's against one of the best corners in the league, number one. Number two, I think Jameson Williams is going to win some of those routes against the top corners in the league when he's on a vertical release. In the slot this time, it's a deep over concept out of 11 personnel. Not sure what Laporta's being coached to do there. I have seen stuff like that before, but maybe this ball's a little bit late. Laporta is the fullback. Again, it's 11 personnel. You got 3 receivers on the field. Deep over by Jameson Williams. Totally loses this DB. Turns him around and then brings his route back across underneath of him. I think if this ball was thrown a little bit more towards the sideline, it's possible Jameson Williams runs onto it, but it's a great play by Justin Simmons, who to my knowledge, still has not signed with anyone. I was kind of hoping he signed with the Ravens. The slightest little hedge or lean to this side causes an overreaction by that DB because he's threatened by the speed of Jameson Williams so acutely. same route, except against a press man alignment in the NFC Championship game. I think Jameson Williams ends up catching this one twice. Clear win over the middle. I thought he looked great in the playoffs. I thought particularly against the Bucs and the 49ers, that he could have had more opportunities, meaning they could have maybe tried to design some things to take advantage of his speed and his athletic gifts, because they looked so pronounced against those two defenses. Basically, his speed seemed to threaten the Bucs and the 49ers DBs more so than some of the other guys. I think you're going to see a significant uptick in opportunities for Jameson Williams in 2024, and obviously increased production. I do wonder if some of those are going to be early in games. I'm not saying that they come out throwing deep on the first possession. I think Ben Johnson's always going to have an immaculate game plan based upon efficiency and limiting turnovers, or limiting the risk of turnovers. I do think that Jameson Williams is ready to explode, or ready to take off in terms of the stats. Should St. Brown get 164 targets? If you have a Jameson Williams available, which St. Brown can do anything. You guys know my thoughts on St. Brown. I think he's one of the top 10 football players in the entire league, period, regardless of position. I do wonder if Jameson Williams, Laporta, and St. Brown are going to get a more shared split of the targets, and that would be an interesting development. Do I think that Jameson Williams is going to be a 90-catch guy with 10 or 12 touchdowns in 2024? No. Not with how often they're going to run the football, how play-action oriented they are at times, and how incredibly brilliant Jared Goff is at identifying things pre-snap in terms of coverage, defensive alignment, and then getting the correct audible out to run a play to take advantage of it. I think Jared Goff steps onto the field as a pseudo coach in this offense in 2024, because he knows exactly what Ben Johnson wants to get accomplished on any given play, and is able to look at the defense and see that there maybe are other higher percentage opportunities to run a different play. So let me be specific. I do think there will be times where Jameson Williams will be the number one target of a play, because they're looking to build a season-long offense. Laporta and St. Brown can carry the offense. That's obvious. The running backs can carry the offense. That's obvious. If you can get Jameson Williams the football early in games, I think it can kind of open those guys up and create more space for them. I like NBA comparisons, and I think St. Brown and Laporta both have a ton of gravity, and they pull defenders to them. They pull attention to them. The run game, the way it's designed, accomplishes the same task. What I'm describing is, I almost wonder if Ben Johnson, those guys, can't use Jameson Williams almost in reverse. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you enjoyed or liked the plays that I picked to illustrate what I was talking about, the concepts and the patterns of his play, then please let me know in the comment section. I try to structure things. Sometimes during the season, I'll structure things based on a particular route, a particular area of the field. In this one, I attacked it as off coverage and then man situations. In the off-season film studies are drastically different than during the regular season, where you're trying to get out as much content as possible. Long-form videos seems to be what people enjoy right now. I appreciate you guys checking the video out. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Jameson Williams, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. I am in the middle of 2 larger film studies about the Rams in preparation for the Week 1 rematch between the Lions and the Rams. If anyone's interested in joining the Patreon, or even just sending me a message on Twitter or commenting here about observations you have with the Rams offense and how they attack Detroit's defense in the playoffs, please feel free to give your opinions on it, because it's something I've been looking at for about 3 weeks. And I have some opinions already formed, but I always appreciate feedback from others. Appreciate you guys' time.